for those of you who caught your spouse cheating, how did you do it?
Experience 1. Found a message on his phone from a mutual friend of ours that read,
I can't stop thinking about all the things I want to do to you when I see you again.
We'd been together for 6 years and I was 4 months pregnant at the time. Experience 2. Told him I was going out with a few of my coworkers after work. Ended up drinking a bit too much, so I texted him that I'd be home later once I sobered up. Made it home around midnight and the first thing I noticed was a pair of car keys I never saw before. I immediately went on the hunt. I tried opening the bedroom door, but it was locked. After a few choice words, he eventually shuffled out by squeezing himself out of the bedroom through a cracked open bedroom door in just his boxers. He told me it wasn't what it looked like and begged me to let her out of the house without any drama. I told him to get her TF out of our house. As she tried running out, I caught a glimpse of her. It was his supervisor from work. After she left, I immediately began grilling him about how they wound up in the bedroom. He had invited her over to play the new video game I had bought him, but she started to get a headache. He didn't feel it was appropriate for his guests to lay on our hard couch, so he let her lay in our bed. Mind you, we had a guest room. All right. So now we know how she got into the bedroom, how she got naked, and how is this not cheating? This moron said,
Well, she wasn't comfortable in her clothes. So, she needed to be naked to sleep. But it's not cheating because she slept under the covers, and I slept on the covers while still wearing my boxers.
Safe to say I divorced him, reported them to their superiors, and left their dumb asses. Last I heard from my old neighbors, they got married. He cheated on her, she cheated on him, and they fought in the front yard. Experience 3. She had done some unexpected personal grooming and packed lingerie to take to work with her. When we got home at the end of the day and she went off to get ready for bed, clearly not intending to sleep with me, I pulled the very used lingerie out of her bag and confronted her. She evaded initially but ended up confessing it was some guy from her work she had only met a couple of days earlier. That was 3 weeks ago. She's still sleeping with the new guy while I've moved out and am trying to figure out how we sell the house we bought together 7 months ago. So, fun times. Experience 4. Not me but my mother, who had stage 3 bladder cancer at the time, had a knock on the door from a woman who told her that she was dating my dad. She said that she had heard my mom was on death's doorstep, and that she had been taking parenting classes and watching her take her kids inside from the car to prepare for the day she could adopt them. Real class act. Experience 5. My ex used to run a construction business with a childhood friend. They were very close, and his friend was at our wedding. Ex started stealing money from the business and lying about jobs. I didn't know this until his friend showed up at our home demanding we pay him back. My ex refused and told him he was going solo in the business. The friend looked me dead in the eye and told me the woman's name. No other info but just the name. I immediately knew what he meant by the look in his eye. He then gave me the address. The house was built by my husband 4 years prior. Experience 6. Not me but a coworker. Went on a Kontiki tour with his missus for his 21st birthday. Booked a 45-day tour, seeing like 15 different countries. A week or 2 into the trip she gets caught getting finger blasted by some random Spanish dude in a club in Barcelona. He is obviously devastated, and now he has to face the prospect of potentially traveling for another month with the girl who just stomped on his heart. He contemplated just calling it and flying home, but other members of the tour convinced him to stay, have a good time, get on with his life, and enjoy the holiday he paid for. He organized with Kontiki and the tour guides to rework the accommodation, so he was no longer in a room with her. He told me he had a marvelous time, made some great new friends, and got to experience new things. She was miserable the whole time as basically, the entire group shunned her for being a massive piece of crap, ignored her on nights out, and she was desperately hoping to get back with her ex-boyfriend who wanted nothing to do with her. He changed his flights on the way home to fly home later than she was and extended his European holiday in order to keep the party going with some of the new friends he had made. Experience 7. My boyfriend and I each had our own laptops, but he used his for creating music in a home studio he made. So, since it was always hooked up to an elaborate situation, he often used my computer to check his stuff. Well, one day he got careless and didn't log out of Facebook properly. I got on my computer and saw that I had a DM notification. Clicked on it and saw that I didn't know this person, but there was a conversation. It was then I realized that I was on my boyfriend account, not mine. And that message, while not spicy, was revealing. It was an old high school lady friend. She asked if he was in a relationship, and he answered that he was single and had been for a while. A surprise to me as I live with my boyfriend of 3 years. I don't know. There was just something in me that ignited. I went ham and started searching everywhere to see if this was a one-time lie or if there was something more bubbling beneath the surface. Well, I was able to contact the cell phone company and print out phone records. He called a specific number over 1,000 times within the record time frame I pulled, which was maybe 3 months. It wasn't his family or his best friend. I had their numbers. I did some more sleuthing and found an old phone of his, charged it, and searched for this number. It was his ex-girlfriend. I took a highlighter and marked every single instance and then took the stack of papers to confront him. I asked if he was in contact with his ex, and of course, he denied it. So, I threw the proof at him and said how crazy it was that his phone just called her 1,000 times in the past 3 months. This paired with his drastic drop in libido, which I was giving grace about because he said he was stressed about his shitty job, and I realized it was over. Spoiler alert. They were together very shortly after I moved out. But I suspect he cheats on her too because the ex-girlfriend and the Facebook lady friend were 2 different people. Experience 8. She said she was at a friend's studying. I had suspicions about a guy she was working with, so I drove about 30 minutes to his house and found her car there. I parked out front and called her. She picked up and I just let her bury herself as hard as I could. Asked her what she was studying, what the girl's name was she was studying with, where she lived, and everything I could think of to make her fumble about. Then I told her to look out front of the house she was in. When I saw her peek through a blind, I waved and told her to find a new place to live and to come get her things. I know things hadn't been great for a while, but it was still a bummer to end like that. Experience 9. Ex-wife, married 10 years, needed an emergency shot of Imitrex for a migraine. Fumbling through her purse looking for it and found a tear in the fabric. Lo and behold, she had condoms stashed in there along with some meth. It was rough, but I did end up with full custody of my 2 boys. Happily married to a wonderful woman now, and everyone is okay. Even the ex eventually kicked her habit. Experience 10. My boyfriend and flatmate went out for drinks while I stayed home with the flu. I fell asleep on the sofa watching TV and woke up to noises upstairs. It sounded like moaning and kissing. My heart sank and I felt like throwing up as I silently crept to my bedroom to peer in. My flatmate was on top of my boyfriend half naked. She saw me and leapt off and ran out to her bedroom and shut the door. I yelled and banged on it and she ignored me. I went to him to yell and get an explanation and he pretended he was asleep, completely ignoring me and denying it the next day. Experience 11. Found out she was pregnant. A few weeks later, we're cuddling on the couch and I get a call from my sister on the opposite side of the country. She informs me that some random woman on Facebook messaged her claiming her husband and my wife were having an affair. I didn't believe it, but it was all true. I was military, and she was meeting up with married grunts in hotel rooms. Literally 2 weeks after we learn we're expecting a child, not even a year into the marriage, I find this out. Edit, this was in 2014. At the time, if someone you weren't friends with sent you a message on Facebook, the message went to a different folder that could only be accessed through Facebook on a web browser. It did not show in the app. The lady who messaged my sister had messaged me months prior, but I never saw any of the messages because I only used the Facebook app. Experience 12. Not me, but a friend of my partner caught her husband. He was stupid enough to leave his Apple Watch at home while texting a prostitute on his iPhone. Of course, all the notifications were coming up on the watch as well. The funny part about it was that the prostitute was my neighbor. She, the friend, texted us to look out for his car. My partner decided it was a good time to take the dog for a walk and ran into him. He tried to come up with an excuse on the spot for being in the neighborhood. She didn't even ask him. Even better, the prostitute took his money and bailed. So I guess he didn't actually get to cheat, or does that still count? Experience 13. She was treating me horribly for weeks. I got suspicious, so went through her phone. Found her Snapchat library of all the pics she took of herself to send off, and messages from a guy referring to those pics. I got the usual "how dare you go through my phone" bullshit. It really sucks having to tell the kids that mommy doesn't live here anymore. Experience 14. I didn't directly catch her, but had a suspicion something was going on. One evening we are at a public event and my wife is working a booth she was assigned to, so I'm walking around killing time until the event is over. Out of the crowd, a woman is standing there looking directly at me in the eye. Somehow, in some way, I immediately knew this woman was the other cheating victim. She approached me and already knew my name. She asked if we could go somewhere and talk. So, we ended up in a booth at the McDonald's across the street. She lays out all the evidence she collected that her husband is smashing my wife. None of this was a surprise to me, oddly enough. Everything fits together with my suspicions. We sat for a while. I absorbed everything. What did surprise me was this woman then proposed that we go to a nearby motel and revenge smash to get back at my wife and her husband. I politely turned this down because she was clearly not in her right state of mind and there was no way escalating the situation was going to help anything. Edit some follow-up info as requested. My wife and I went to separate gyms 2 or 3 times a week. Suddenly her pattern changed. She wanted to go to the gym almost every day and she started wearing makeup to work out, which she never did before. Also, her libido changed. Every time she got back from the gym, she wanted to smash like a tiger in heat. I welcomed this because I'm a high libido guy, but it still struck me as odd that why now all of a sudden is she horny all the time? I don't know if she was pretending I was the other guy. Finally, anytime, any place, she would break down crying. She would never tell me why. It might be at home or out in public. I strongly suggested she get checked for depression, but she insisted she'd figure it out on her own. This leads us to the festival where my wife was running a booth while I encountered the other wife. After everything came out, it turned out the other husband had started talking to my wife every day at the gym. He was persistent and wore her down. She really did turn out to be depressed, which does not excuse cheating, but she was weak when this guy was coming on strong. In retrospect, the other wife did have more than a passing resemblance to my wife. I guess these women were his type. I'd be lying if I said my long john didn't twitch when she offered to go to the motel. But if we smashed, then we would have given up all the moral high ground with what would come next. I don't think she saw this at the time. She wanted revenge on my wife, and the best way to guarantee no reconciliation would have been making everybody a cheater. But I wanted to deal with my wife on my own terms. I wanted to maintain the moral high ground. I talked with the other wife a few more times to sort out evidence and talk about attorneys, but I never did indulge. The other wife ended up remarried to a new guy about 6 months later. My wife and I went 3 years of marriage counseling, and she was treated for bipolar disorder. She eventually finished her therapy and even doesn't need meds anymore. She is a completely different person, and we've been married 18 years now, with her affair being over 10 years ago. I will say the experience broke something in me. I could walk out the door right now if she ever cheated again. But at the same time, our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. It's a very strange dichotomy that I don't even understand. Yeah, it could have been the hottest intercourse ever, but I don't regret it.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.